everybody? It's time for your morning ice in the crease with Tommy C. What's happening, everybody? This is In the Crease with Tommy C. Let's go over last night's games in the National Hockey League. The Panthers come up short to the Boston Bruins 2-1 in overtime. Brad Marchand's fifth goal of the season led the Bruins to their third straight win. The Oilers come up short against the Philadelphia Flyers. They take them 4-1. Alexander Ovechkin recorded 2 assists to become the Capitals' franchise leader in points, but the Flames get it done anyway in overtime. A bad bounce late in the third period leads to a Monahan goal. The Flames take that game 4-3. The Hurricanes beat the Columbus Blue Jackets. Kane seemed to be turning it around lately. Jonathan Toews scored 2 goals and had an assist, and Corey Crawford made 28 saves for his first shutout of the season. Blackhawks destroy the Habs 5-0. Blues over the Devils. Nice East Coast trip for the Blues. They take the Devils 1-0. Vladimir Tarasenko notching his 4th goal in 3 games. Is this guy becoming a star or what? Clark MacArthur posted an empty netter as the Senators dropped the visiting Red Wings 3-1. Red Wings take it down by the Sens. Sens looking better these days with Mika Zibanejad. Predators come up short to the Jets. Jets look like a playoff-bound team. The Pittsburgh Penguins, they beat the Wild 4-1 Penguins. The Penguins actually just handed the Wild their first defeat in 6 home games. Jonathan Quick stopped 33 shots to help the Kings snap a 4-game winless streak. They take the Sharks 3-1. Nick Bonito scored 2 goals, and the Canucks came back from a 2-0 deficit. The Canucks take that 5-2. The Avalanche, every time I seem to announce these things, the Avalanche seem to be losing. And the Toronto Maple Leafs come up short to the Coyotes 3-2. Coyotes ended the Maple Leafs 3-game winning streak. Hi, I'm Tommy C. And unfortunately, Dead on Dave couldn't be here. He had a little accident. Dead on Dave, as we all know, he's got some injury issues related back to his service, but he will be with us tomorrow. So don't think anything. Don't think that there's something out of line or anything like that. Dave's just hurt, and unfortunately, we couldn't fill him. Dave Rose actually couldn't be here later. He's feeling a little ill. But that doesn't matter because I enjoy doing solo shows as well. It gives me a chance to sort of, practice my speaking skills, so to speak. So I'll do that today. Of course, Alex Ovechkin becomes the Caps' all-time leading scorer. This is great news for the Caps. The bad news is they keep losing. Barry Trotz just the other day said if something doesn't change, I'm paraphrasing, of course, maybe some personnel is going to have to change. The culture has to change. There's obviously a big problem over there. One of the reasons I was really hot on the Caps going into the season is the acquisition of Matt Niskanen and Brooks Orpik, both really good, strong defensemen, good defensemen. And I felt very similar about the Islanders bringing in Boychuk and Leddy that I did about the Capitals. The problem is it hasn't seemed to work. They give up. I mean, they didn't play that bad last night and led most of the game. They seem to give up anywhere between 4 and 5 goals a game. And I know Brandon Holtby's not that bad a goaltender. This is support. And what type of support are you supposed to get from a leader like Alexander Ovechkin who doesn't find the time to back check? We've been hitting Alex over the head with his lack of leadership abilities, but, let's also criticize some of his play. Of course, Alexander Ovechkin is an offensive phenom. He's got a nose for the puck. He's got a wicked shot. But in recent years, he's become very predictable, streaky, and one-dimensional. As a guy who supported Ovechkin in the Crosby-Ovechkin era after the season loss of 2004, I think it's clear to say that Crosby's won this war. Crosby is the more complete player. Now, Crosby's got leadership issues of his own, but he did get it done. There's a lot not to like about Sidney Crosby, which is one of the reasons that I always liked Alex. I always felt really good about Alex because there was just something, he was happy, he was upbeat. he didn't seem to take himself terribly seriously. He just an excitement, almost like a boy's excitement for the game that I particularly enjoyed, and I always pulled for Alex. But he is one-dimensional, and he's also the leader of this hockey team. No hockey player should have a captaincy below the age of 25. Now, Alex is a lot older than that now, but a problem was he was not surrounded by players that taught him how to lead, and what I mean lead, learn how to win in the NHL. I'm sorry, folks. Doesn't matter what your advanced stats are. Defense is still important in the National Hockey League and always will be. Why did I know that? Because I used to watch a little league called Roller Hockey International, where initially there was no body checking. And, of course, the scores were from 11 to 15 and things of that nature, and it wasn't very exciting hockey. And I've always thought that inline hockey could be very viable. We'll get into that some other time, maybe later in the end of the show. If you give these guys the run of the floor, they're going to score. Even less talented players are going to score. Alex needs to become not necessarily a two-way forward, but someone who contributes on both ends. Being a minus 10,000 is unacceptable. This might work in Europe, where the defensemen aren't that good, where the rinks are better. This is not going to work in the National Hockey League. And he's never had anybody standing over him that he respects to be able to lead him and say, this is how it's done in the National Hockey League. You can't just carry the puck or look or wait for the pass. You got to create plays. You got to cover your own zone. It's that simple. The funny thing is about Alex, he is a physical player in the offensive zone. He can throw his body around. One of the great advantages he has. Reminds me of Jaromir Jagr when he used to have the puck. The way he had the stick handling and the strength. Jagr can throw a body check, but he won't get back for some reason because he's usually waiting for the puck. He doesn't know how to win in the National Hockey League because he's too one-dimensional. These are things you could tolerate when he was a kid coming into the league thinking that he would learn. But the problem is he was such a phenom. He was such a talent that people looked the other way. And there was never a player that knew how to win, with the possible exception of Sergei Fedorov, that could teach him how to get it done, how to pick up a team, how to put him on your back, because it's a lot more than actually putting it in the net, as you can see. Alex becomes the highest scoring player in Capitals history, and let's take a look at some of the people that preceded him. Dino Ciccarelli, Mike Gardner. These are powerhouses. These are Hall of Famers. I don't know if he's as good as Dino Ciccarelli. What do you mean? Look at his stats. I got to be honest with you. I don't even know if he's good as Dino says. Is he more talented? Absolutely. But considering the way things are going, and I got to be honest with you, I know what Barry Trotz is doing. He's trying to put the fear of God in a guy that doesn't have any fear for his job. And I think Barry Trotz is barking up the wrong tree if he's thinking about scaring Alex or even potentially dealing to Alex, because that's out of the question. I don't think that the Washington administration, the Caps administration, has the balls to pull something like that, has the balls to put the fear in Alex. Because Alex is like a kid, behaves like a kid in public. I mean, now he's been in the league 10 years. I think what Barry Trotz will find is they will do the math. Are we better with Ovi or without Ovi, even if we don't win a cup, even if we're not competitive? And guess what? Barry Trotz will be like so many Washington coaches. He will be out on his ass. And that will virtually assure that Alex Ovechkin will never win a Stanley Cup. Not only will when they lose Trotz, and I got to be honest with you, because I don't believe they have the balls to trade him. This may be some kind of plan to scare him. But what does he care if he's traded? Contract's guaranteed. So I honestly think Trotz is barking up the wrong tree, but I don't know what else he could do. Certainly it's not all Ovi's fault. Where's Niskanen? Where's Orpik? Where's some of these other defensemen? I don't know. Maybe they don't have a leader. Which is, strangely enough, one of the reasons that I believe that Orpik and Niskanen left Washington or Pittsburgh. Don't think I'm right? Several articles going into the playoffs, the 2014 playoffs last year, cited both Orpik and Niskanen saying that leadership was an issue in the Pittsburgh Penguins locker room. Not one mention of the captain himself. So it sounds like they traded one prima donna for another. That's right. I think Ovechkin is a prima donna. Prima donnas don't win unless they have support around them. He has become exactly what he's become. Exactly the reason that I started rooting for him is the reason that I dislike him now. Not personally, but his play, his attitude. He's become an unlikable, super talented loser. And he will not win a Stanley Cup in a Washington Capitals uniform, like so many greats that have come through that organization. If he wins a Stanley Cup, it'll be a lot like Ray Bourque did. It'll be with the Colorado Avalanche. It will be in a situation where if Jerome McGinley actually wins, where he's just trying to get that one cop shot right before he heads out the door. Or Jaromir Jagr, hoping that he picked the right team. That's the situation we're going to find Alex Ovechkin in. Because he does appear to be not coachable. He does appear to be not a leader. And I don't think there is a player in this hockey league that could come in and sit him down and teach him how it's done, because he thinks he's the best hockey player in the world. What are you going to teach the best hockey player in the world? Nothing. I get the feeling when I watch Alex Ovechkin that when he's on the ice, the way he looks at players when they make turnovers and things of that nature, that if you just give the puck to me, then we'll win. Well, you're not a proven winner. You're not a proven winner. You've won nothing. And what makes him more even unlikable, that has nothing to do with his play on the ice, is support for Vladimir Putin. There, I said it. The Golden Boy supports a guy who invaded another country that was in some turmoil, that was no threat to theirs. Uncoachable, unlikable, supports dictators. Not the future of the league. And he will only win a Stanley Cup as if he's on a great team. If he's actually somebody pulls a drug deal and puts him on a dynasty. He's not that type of player. He would be very, very good in a role-playing situation where he's just simply a sniper and not expected to do anything else. But he's the captain of the Washington Capitals. I mentioned Ray Bourque before. That scenario. That would be very good for Alex as far as winning a Stanley Cup. Ray Bourque was twice the hockey player. Twice the leader that Alex Ovechkin ever was. What do you mean Bourque was twice? He was a tremendous hockey player, and he probably would have won a cup in Boston had Cam Neely not been injured by Ulf Samuelsson. That screwed that whole generation of players up. And when he was coming to the end of his career, they dealt him, and it was a nice thing for the Boston franchise to do. That's the only way Alex wins. So maybe Dead on Dave's right. Maybe it's starting to think outside the box. But what do you trade for him? You're not going to get Sidney Crosby for him. Do you get a multitude of players? What would you do with him? He's almost priceless. There's nothing to trade him for. You can't teach him anything. You can't deal him. Maybe he's not that great. Maybe he's not that great. Maybe he's more like a Mike Gardner, guy who bounced around the league a lot, even though he's one of the top scorers. I think he's one of the top 10 scorers of all time. Maybe he's more in that class, Mike Gardner's class, than Sidney Crosby's class, or Wayne Gretzky's class, or Bobby Orr, or Ray Bourque's class. He's not that good. He is a tremendous talent. But 10 years later, the boyish charm has become nothing more than an arrogant prima donna. A European soccer player. The NHL hasn't changed that much. That stuff doesn't win. Not yet. You have to cover your own zone. You got to play hard. You got to hit hard. And if you don't, you got to find somebody to pick up the slack of your defensive abilities. Washington's not that team. Maybe Niskanen wasn't that player. Maybe Brick Swarbrick wasn't that player. Or maybe the leader is disorganized because he simply steps out on the ice every night with the intent to score. And that's it. Sort of like his game. One-dimensional. Maybe it's his character as well. 718-395-7660. 718-395-7660. If you have another opinion, you want to fight me, come bring it. Don't sing it. Bring it. And I'd actually like to hear from Capitals fans. I wonder if you feel the same way I do. I wonder if you're disappointed. Or are you just so in love with Ovi? What do you want? Do you want a superstar? Look, the Capitals have never had a superstar like Ovi. Or do you want a Stanley Cup in a non-hockey town who's had nothing but bad luck? The greatest second-round exit team of all time, the Washington Capitals. And even they got this guy, they couldn't put it together. And Barry Trotz is not as valuable as Alex Ovechkin. What are they going to do? They're going to trade him? What would you trade him for? How would that trade positively impact your team? The only thing, a trade could benefit Alex. You couldn't even trade him to a crappy team to punish him because you wouldn't get anything back worth having. Unless you did a mega draft picks trade. That seems to be the best option. First round picks. Next couple years. Sounds good to me. Deal them to Florida. They'll be giving you some good ones. Again, 718-395-7660. 718-395-7660. The other topic I wanted to talk about is one of my absolute pet peeves. Me and Dave touched on it a little bit in our Monday show. And it's the fact that it looks like it's true. The National Hockey League is talking to Las Vegas. And all I can do is groan. Why can I groan? Because it's another warm weather state without a hockey culture that's getting a hockey team. I'd be much more comfortable with them in Seattle. But I don't want a team in Seattle. Perfectly honest with you, I want something that's absolutely never going to happen. Fold some teams. I want the depth to be good. I want the games to be better. Fold teams. But that's never going to happen, and I know how unrealistic that is. I don't care about the Coyotes. They have no history, nothing worth talking about. They had Jeremy Roenick and Keith Tkachuk, and they couldn't win with them. Mike Gardner, too, come to think of it. The Cats, who looked like they were going to actually be a great team with their 2019, I think was it, I want to say 96. 1996? Yeah, their 96 win. Colorado Avalanche beat them. They went all the way to the end. The famous rats in the ice, which would have been a great tradition if it wasn't such a pain in the ass. They got a first-class defenseman down there in Florida. Ekwald. Guy's going to be great talent. But something tells me it's like a Chris Pronger situation. Like he's at the Hartford Whalers and he's going to end up at a good team eventually. So, I don't want another Arizona. I don't want another. I don't want another Florida. I got to be honest with you. If they didn't have Stamkos over there and hadn't won a Stanley Cup in 2004, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning would be all but dead. The only reason I could possibly be wrong is the reason they put Florida franchises down there was the fact that so many people from the East, the Northeast, had moved down to Florida, so they might want to take in a hockey game. Why put two teams? What are they, within 100 miles of each other? 200 miles? Two hockey teams? Two? Ridiculous. So we'll do the Bettman special. We'll go to Las Vegas. Now, Dave mentioned to me they might have comps. They could probably fill that sucker in every night with people that are in town. Because it's a very, from what I understand, Las Vegas is a very cosmopolitan community. It's people from all over the place. But that's the same logic to put the teams down in Florida. So you get a bunch of guys over there that are just there because it got comped to them for their business. They're never hockey fans. They're probably going to see the Pittsburgh Penguins or the Washington Capitals so they can see Ovi and Sydney. What seems like a good idea now never seems to pan out for the National Hockey League. I'd rather see a team in Quebec. The economy's a lot different now in that part of Canada than it was when the Nordiques left. From what I understand, there'll never be a team in Halifax. The economy simply can't support it, but that would be nice as well. A second team Toronto I'd be more comfortable with. Dave Rose seems to think that it would be well supported. He would actually hand over his leaf. If they get a second franchise, we have to do a ceremony where Dave Rose removes his Maple Leafs jersey and puts on the new team's jersey. I always said that if the Cosmos were going to come back. I spilled my goddamn coffee. I always said that I would do that if the Cosmos came back to the MLS, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen either. That I take off my Red Bulls jersey and flip it off. Another team. Another failure. We got to wait a decade and a half to find it out. Wait a minute. 20 years old the Cats are, right? $20 years old. Why was the team put in Arizona? Well, there was more people from the East moving there, and the economy was good. Well, now the economy's not good in Arizona, or as well. And it's... I mean, really, are we going to see one player produced from Arizona? How much influence are you going to have? I'm sick of friggin' reading about places like Detroit and Arizona where the state is putting up money. No tax dollars should go to hockey. Hockey should fund itself. And if hockey can't fund itself, it should get the hell out of town. The team had no owner for years. They should have told you to fold. Businesses fold all the time. But the NHL and other sports groups or other sports, leagues seem to think that if you fold, it's some kind of sign of weakness. Great businessmen open and close businesses all the time. Some of them are mistakes. Everything in business is a gamble. This gamble lost. Why hang on to it? It's like you're upping your own interest rate after you took the loan, and you don't even have to. You could just pay off the loan and be done with it. But no, you want to pay it more. It's like paying off a bet more than you initially agreed on. Maybe put it in better words. Las Vegas. They have a horrible economy for the last 6 years. They are not jumping in money like they were. Even Jersey City, Atlantic City's not as well off as it was. Closing the Taj Mahal. Closing casinos. Drinks not comped at all casinos anymore. That used to be the given. You give away drinks, people get drunk, they give you your money. A hockey team? Let's not forget the last experiment in Las Vegas. The first outdoor game in National Hockey League history in Las Vegas. That's right. The New York Rangers played Wayne Gretzky and the Los Angeles Kings. And I invite you to look up that master disaster. I got to be honest with you. And I was a big follower of the Rangers. They played that game in September or something. It was a preseason game. And it's hot as hell. And they played that sucker there. Las Vegas, desert. And all the problems that they had with that. It was kind of a goofy joke. Bugs and, it was a nightmare. And I think that's it. It's going to be a laughable nightmare there as well. What else is going on in the National Hockey League? Well, Jack Johnson, I invite you to check his headshot on Yuri Talusi. I think it's one of those things where he didn't mean to, but popped him in the head. Head can't be the first point of contact. Expect Jack Johnson to get 3 games. And expect Las Vegas to get a goddamn franchise. It's ridiculous. It's laughable. It's a joke. What do they say? What's the thing is you do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result? It's in fucking sanity. And people say I'm crazy. No franchising. Ugh. And if they got to get a franchise, I hope it moves. An expansion team would just make me puke. Here's another thing those geniuses did. National Hockey League. Now, they were expecting all these players coming from Eastern Europe once the wall fell down. Pretty good logic, but what they didn't think was ahead. Eastern Europe had fell apart. They no longer had socialist dictators putting aside money for hockey instead of food. Sane people took over Eastern Europe and Russia, and they decided that food was more important, or the opportunity to get it. And we got less good hockey players. It's actually, it took about, I'd say, 10 years after the wall. I mean, there's really, if you think about it, all the great Russians were of that pre-Soviet era. Kovalev, Fedorov. I think that's who might have been the one standout Russian that came after that. That wasn't trained by Soviets. I'd have to check that to make sure. Fetisov. Name a few other jokers. Konstantinov. Pavel Bure. Alexander Mogilny. These guys were trained by Soviets, but they didn't have to do that anymore. So what happened? Dead puck carrier came in. Those Russians can't even move the puck as it was because it was such a shitty game back then. Didn't think for the future. Thankfully, some of those economies improved in Eastern Europe, and they were able to start producing hockey players again, and thank God it wasn't on the taxpayer's dollar that I know of, or at least not as much. I would not be a bitch surprised if the Czech Republic was putting money aside for hockey, which is a joke. Nobody should have to pay for the New York Rangers, my hockey team, or any other team for that matter. There's enough problems in the world. There's enough deficits being run all over the Western world to put money into hockey. It's a goddamn shame is what it is. That's my ridiculous rant for today. It's too bad I didn't have anybody today. I think I did pretty good. I think I might work the rest of the night and put some stuff together. Maybe I'll put a game on in the background. I'll upload some videos. Maybe I should just be uploading NHL videos all the time, considering even if they don't do well. I've been actually kind of timing the videos and what have you to... I've got a pretty good system to get good results as far as hits are concerned. But maybe I want to collect them. No more KHL, though. Those guys put the fear of fucking God in me. So they don't have to deal with me anymore. KHL. Hope you like today's show. Don't be afraid to leave a voicemail. Hit me at Tommy C, SFTP, at Tommy C, SFTP. And you can also Skype me, Shot from the Point. Hey, you want some gear? Check out our gear. www.zazzle.com/pointmen. Official Pointmen gear. Nah, it ain't cheap. I ain't lie to you. I ain't got much to do with it. But know that every dime goes to upgrading the show. And if I get this job this week, you won't need to send me. All right. Let's go over tonight's games. How about that on the National Hockey League? 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Detroit Red Wings head into the Garden facing New York Rangers. The Montreal Canadiens have not been playing very well of late. They might get a break, and they get the Connor McDavid sweepstakes. That's right. Let me say it again. The Buffalo Connor McDavid sweepstakes. That's on the menu. And the late night game tonight, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time. The New York Islanders face the Anaheim Mighty Puckheads. The Anaheim. What has anything to do with Mannheim? Well, hey, Anaheim. Is that a German name? I wonder. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Leave your opinions. Anything you want to do, hit the Shot from the Point Facebook page, Google+. I hope to see you guys soon. Have a very, very good one. Goodbye. Good morning. It's night for me.